Hello and welcome back to the When You're Podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're stepping on crispity, crunchity leaves. So, when you're walking and then you just, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, but you take that right step and then all of a sudden you just get that crispity, crunchity sound. Just that, in Ratatouille, she says the symphony of crackles. Just that whole sound in itself. I didn't really do a good job with it just there, or at all. But I'm just saying that I'm just trying to talk about that moment, that feeling, that kind of like unexpected but sometimes expected feeling. So, right now we're in a transition into fall. It's getting to that point. And I saw that girl, I forget her name, darn it. But it's that one female influencer, the white girl who goes to Vermont for like her daily kind of like fall aesthetic looks. Pictures. Like she goes there for like the pictures and whatnot. She posted a video that was kind of like her walking into the place, and then she like forgets her kids, so she runs back, and then she gets her kids, and then they run out together, and it's like it's a cute little video, whatever, right? And I was like, that's such a I don't want to say that's such like a basic thing. I kind of want to say that like as the seasons change, I guess there are certain places around the world that are like peak for the season to change in, right? Like, obviously, I don't think, I was about to say something like, maybe somewhere, like, let's say somewhere tropical. Like, you go somewhere tropical for, like, the winter or whatever. It's not like that. It doesn't really reflect the season of the holiday, right? Like a tropical Christmas is cool. It's definitely a cool idea, but it doesn't actively sort of reflect the holiday, right? When you think of Christmas, when you think of like December, you think like of winter, you think of the snow. You think like, oh, it's going to snow down. It's going to, there's going to be people building snowmen outside. It's going to be, you have to shovel your driveway. You're going to have to like wipe down your car with like that thing to kind of get rid of all of the snow, right? So as the seasons change, we have to like adapt and whatever. I mean, that's a basic given. But what I'm trying to say is that like when they change, there are certain things to them that we associate with each of them, such as obviously Christmas with winter, it's cold, blah, 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 blah. With spring, we equate it to flowers, the flowers bloom, allergy season starts, all of the snow melts, it starts getting warmer. And then summer, we're like, oh my gosh, no school, it's time to go out there and have fun. It's time to go to the beach, to the pool, where it's really hot. We have to like get frozen drinks and all of this other stuff. And then in the fall, it's pumpkins. The leaves start changing color. It turns red. There's the pumpkin spice latte. It becomes this whole big thing. And because of that, we have to think to ourselves, okay, sometimes, how do you get the full, like the real fall experience? How do you get like that moment of like, oh, this feels like perfect, like peak, not the peak fall season look, you know what I'm saying? Because I definitely remember the moment I saw like, I can distinctly remember seeing the trees change from green to just pure yellow. And it's not like an instant change. You can obviously see it changing colors like progressively, but it wasn't every day that I would look at the tree. Some days I would like go somewhere else or I would do whatever. there were certain times where I was kind of baffled by the amount of change, like overnight. It seems that the whole that nature takes. So what I'm trying to say through all of this is that by this woman going to Vermont or going to wherever she went for like these pictures, she's trying to get the full season experience and trying to just show it off and like how she enjoys it. And with that comes the leaves. So this is what I'm trying to get back on, is the change in the weather, the change in the seasons, and that comes with death. I mean, it comes with the leaves getting old. They fall off the tree, they get all dried up, and then they're perfect for stepping on, for crunching on, right? I mean, crunching meaning stepping on them, not picking up and eating them. Although I guess you can crush it with your hands if you want to, but I'm just saying that like they go from the progressive change from in the summertime they're green, they're healthy, they're blooming, they're at their greenest, and then come the fall it turns to yellow and then red, and then it falls, and then from red it turns to brown, and then brown is like you step on it, it's crispity crunchity, you know. That's just the way I try to describe it. But the weather as well, like the weather obviously changes as the season change. It starts off, well, the year January is in the winter, and it starts off cold. So there's absolutely no leaves. It's just snow or whatever. It's cold. It's not like this. It doesn't have the same feel to it in the same way. But that comes with a different kind of like experience, so to speak. But I'm not really trying to talk about winter. I'm trying to talk about like in the weather changing, it creates this perfect environment for us to notice and to have these moments where life is happening in a special and new way. So from the weather changing, it goes from our experience to, let's say in the summertime, it's all warm and it's hot. You know, let's go from the transition from summertime to the fall. So it's really warm, it's really hot, we're burning up, it's boiling outside. You can like cook, you could bake outside, you can like cook eggs outside, like you can do the whole thing, right? It's really warm out there. Then it starts to pick up like a little bit of wind. It starts to cool down just a little bit, you know, still hot, right? But it just starts to get a little windy. Then all of a sudden it's a huge shift. It completely changes. And for where I live, it's typically when it rains in the fall season, like after whatever the calendar says the fall is, like during that time, it's usually like towards the end of October, where we get rainfall, and then once it rains, the temperature drastically cools down. And then once it drastically cools down, that's when it's like, it feels like fall weather. And then, you know, it just progressively gets colder and colder and colder, getting ready for the winter season. But let me go back to the summertime. It's warm, it's hot. The leaves are green. They're full of sunlight, and if you water them, they're obviously going to stay healthy. You know, everything's going to be healthy there. But the wind, I want to be clear about the wind here. So as time goes on, right, the wind will shake the trees. The trees will start shaking and shaking and shaking, and eventually they'll have to say bye to a couple of leaves. You know what I mean? Nothing too crazy. But now, because the temperature has sort of gone down, I mean, it's still warm outside. It can still get pretty hot in the afternoon. It can get up to the 90s. But that doesn't mean it's not fall. Especially when in the summertime, it would get as hot as like over 100 degrees outside. So as this all happens, we see the progression of like, okay, what does it take for the leaves to completely transform? Well, it's a part of the biology of the tree. It's trying to figure out like, okay, well, the I forget the exact science to it. I think it has something to do with, I mean, obviously it has something to do with the leaves no longer, so when they get sunlight and I actually have no idea. But I think it has something to do with chlorophyll, right? I think. I have no idea. So, okay, yes. See, this is what I'm talking about right here. All right, so the chlorophyll production slows down, and then it will stop, and eventually all the chlorophyll is destroyed. And because of that, they change colors. And what is it called? Autumn colors or autumn foliage and fall colors. I mean, that's not really scientific. But anyways, yeah, it has something to do with the chlorophyll. All right, whatever. I'm just trying to set up the moment for when these leaves fall, and they set up the perfect expected and or unexpected moment of when we step on them, that feeling we get. So anyways, the seasons change, the weather change, the leaves stop producing chlorophyll, and then they change colors from green to yellow to red, and then they die and they turn brown. And then they're right there for the taking. So anyways, you go out for a walk. And this is the moment I'm really talking about here, okay? Forget everything else. All right, this is the moment that I'm talking about here, the walk. You go outside, maybe to like your park, or you're just taking your dog out around the neighborhood, or maybe you're out in the woods, maybe you're out in the forest or whatnot. You know what I mean? If there's like woods and forests near you, and even particularly if you're in your backyard and there's like a big tree back there, right? So you go out for a walk. And you're walking. And now, you usually go out for a walk, and it's not that big of a deal. It's not that crazy. It's not that, there's nothing really to, like, look out for. But when it turns to the fall season, when the leaves fall down to the ground. Now, let's say you're walking in the park. In the park, there are a ton of trees. At least, for me, I guess. But let's just assume that you have a park with like a bunch of trees. They're all over the floor. Now, this is to be expected. You're going to be expected to step on some leaves. And in this way, it's kind of like there's kind of like a rhythm to it. It's like, quick steps. You don't really get to like fully appreciate or enjoy it unless you like catch yourself like, oh snap, like we're in a groove right here. And I know my dog, when I take her out for a walk, she'll kind of, I don't want to say avoid the leaves, but like sometimes if they're just like, if it can be like sidestepped or, it's not that big of a deal, she'll walk around it, so to speak. She just doesn't want to like step on it in the same way that I would. Now me, I don't really care all that much. I'm just like, you know what, let me just keep walking. I'm not going to interrupt the flow just so I could avoid this leaf, right? And I also like the sound of the crunch. So it's a win-win. It's in my way. I can step on it and we can keep on rolling. But here's the other thing. This is the important thing. Sometimes there's that moment when you're walking and you feel this sense that like, oh, I'm just gonna walk, not gonna have any thoughts in my head, not gonna like worry about anything. And sometimes I'll have like, sometimes I'll take my headphones out on a walk with me, so that way I can like listen to music, or I can like just kind of like listen to something as I'm going out. So that way it doesn't feel like I'm completely by myself, I guess. But I'm out there, and when I have no headphones and I can just like fully appreciate the outside. I can fully like listen to nature or like cars or whatever's going on nearby. And you feel just head empty out for a walk. All right, let me stop setting this up. You go for that walk and you're not paying attention to the ground, all right? You're not looking for the next step. You're not looking at the sidewalk. You're not looking at anything, okay? There's that beautiful moment where you don't see the leaf. The leaf isn't on your mind at all. You're not really paying attention to it, but then you take that perfect step right on it without not even meaning to, okay? And then you step on it. So beautiful. I mean, haven't we all had that moment? I promise you we've all had that moment where it's just like you're not really paying attention, you don't really care, it's not like that big of a deal, but you step on it and you can feel it from your foot to your ears, just the satisfying sound of the crispity crunchity sound of the leaf once you step on it. I mean, this is the fall experience right here. Yeah. You can go to the pumpkin patch, you get some pumpkins. Yeah, you can drink that coffee or whatever. You can wear like your aesthetically pleasing outfits and sweaters and clothes and, you know, take pictures and all that. But the real experience comes from that unexpected moment when you're walking down the street, walking in the park, walking around your neighborhood, walking in your, you know, being in your backyard. You're not thinking about the leaves. You're not thinking about stepping on them. And yet you do. And then guess what? You get like I don't want to say like a big satisfying thing. I think it's more of like now you get like a not a one time, but kind of like this enjoyable, funny, cool part of nature, which is like the perfect sound of that crunch, that perfect sound of like, oh snap, I like that noise. I like that thing. Now, if I was younger, I would obviously expectedly, once I crunch it one time, I'm going to want to crunch all the other ones, you know? And I think that's fun. I think that's cool. But at the same time, it kind of loses its essence when there's something to it. I don't know what it is. There's something to it where if you expect the crunch, right, you'll sometimes be disappointed. Like there have been moments where there are leaves on the ground and I try to step on them because I think they look like they're going to be able to give like a crunch, you know what I mean? And then I step on them and it doesn't really give that big of a sound. It just kind of like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have that same feel to it, which is why this is the time to really enjoy the crunch of the leaves now. But you can't expect it, you know? It can't be like, oh, I'm going to step on that leaf. Not that it takes away any of the enjoyment, but just that like that first time when you step on it and you have no idea it's there, or, you know, you don't expect it to be as satisfying as it does once it happens. That's the moment I'm talking about. That's what I'm thinking about right there, that unexpected moment. You're not trying to make the most amazing sound in the world. You're not trying to step on the leaf so that way you can get like the pure joy of the crispity crunchity of it. You're just stepping on it because you're trying to move somewhere. It's not the number one thought. But once it happens, that's where the magic is. The magic is in unexpectedly getting like sort of it's not like a reward, not like a prize. It's more of like just sort of like a, hey, I'm here sort of a thing with the leaf. Like, just like, yo, I was alive and you didn't appreciate me in the tree. Now that I'm on the ground, you feel like you can step on me and get this crispity crunchity noise. Maybe that's another way to look at it. From like the leaves perspective, it's kind of like a big disrespect. Ooh, darn. that sucks, you know. That's terrible way. That's not a good thing. So from the leaves perspective, the leaf was up in the tree, living life, having a good time, being green as can be. Then one day it stops with the chlorophyll. It's like, yo, the season's changing. I'm about to die. Starts turning yellow, starts turning red. Then it falls onto the ground. Then here I come, this idiot who's not even paying attention, and I step on the leaf and it makes this great crunch sound. I'm breaking the leaf's bones here. Essentially, that's what I'm doing. And I guess I could see it, you know, from the leaf's perspective. It's a horror movie. It really is a big disrespect. Because, like, I wasn't, you know, taking care of the leaf. I wasn't like, hey, man, how are you? You know, we weren't buddies. But now all of a sudden, I feel like I can step on it because it's, you know, pretty much dead. Dang. But I have to say, it's pretty satisfying. There are a lot of there are a lot of things that can make crunchy noises, but there's not a lot that is as satisfying as stepping on that crispity crunchity leaf. There's not much else to step on and enjoy. There's also kind of like the crispness of the snow, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like you have like a bunch of you have like your boots on or whatever, and then you walk on the snow and it makes like that noise as well, where it's like I can't even recreate it right now, but it's kind of like you know what I mean? It kind of makes that noise. That's satisfying as well, but in a different way, you know, in a winter kind of way. I'm talking about the fall season here because it's fall. So anyways, there are other good crunch sounds. First one that comes to mind, celery. Celery definitely makes... Oh, you know what it reminds me of? No, not reminds me of, but you know what was a good prank was the, you know how people would do they would take like a single strand of spaghetti, right? Then they would kind of like break it off, put it in their mouths, right? And then they go like, my neck hurts. And then they take a bite of it and it makes it sound like they snap their neck. And then their family member or like their mom or whoever would be like, oh my goodness, are you okay? You know, they would be like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. Like that was a big snap, right? I think that's funny. And that's a good use of the crunch. That's a perfect use of the crunch. But there's celery. What are others satisfying? Well, how about the giraffes? Giraffes eating those. You know how like in cartoons they'll have like the animals or whatever, they'll like be eating something and it'll just have like a good like I like those sounds. I like that whole process. I forget what those guys are called, but they add the sound afterwards to make it sound like how it's supposed to. So when I saw not a documentary on it. It was kind of like a behind the scenes of like some old cartoons, like some of the kind of like how back in the day they used to make these sounds for all of these cartoons for like Mickey Mouse and Disney and all this other stuff. Like they would have to be inventive with like, okay, what does the raindrop sound like? Because if we do like a regular rainfall, it's not going to sound good. It's not going to sound like how we want it to sound. So they use like wet paper towels to represent like a raindrop, or like wet boots or whatever. You know what I mean? So they would have to be behind the scenes and like in a studio, in a sound studio, and they would have to come up with like the sounds for it. So for bones breaking or like something snapping in half, they would get like this big thing of celery and they would snap it, and that would be like a bone breaking, essentially, and so on and so forth. So I always found that very fascinating, and I feel like that makes a lot of sense here. But anyways, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so they'll have like a movie with like dinosaurs, and they'll have like that really long necked one that like are the herbivores, and they'll bite on the top of the tree and then they'll crunch it. And that crunch is what I'm trying to focus on here. But let's see, what else is there in terms of like good crunch. Apples. Apples have a good crunch, especially when you take that first bite. It's not so much in the... I mean, the apple slices too. I'm trying to think. Just that one moment where you get the apple for the first time and then you... Yeah, that's it. Ooh, pickles. Have you ever had like the first bite of the pickle? The Vlasic. That's one good crunch. I think that's the slogan. Yeah, those are definitely good. Definitely very solid. Obviously like potato chips or like Doritos or whatever. Just like that. I'm just trying to focus on like that one moment where it's just like that perfect crunch, so to speak. That perfect moment where it's just like, wow, that was a satisfying, like that really satisfied the feeling of like, I want something crispity crunchity. And that's how I feel with the leaf, stepping on the leaf. It's just kind of like that satisfying moment where you look, you don't expect it, but it happens, right? Because when we eat, it's a lot different. Like we expect it to be crunchy. We expect like that kind of sound to it. But when we're outside, sometimes we don't expect it. And that's what's cool about it. That's what I like. And that was kind of something that I felt the other day when I was taking my dog out for a walk. I was just walking. She like kind of avoided it or like did like a 360 spin move around it. And I didn't really pay much attention. Yet I stepped on it and it made this beautiful crunch sound. And I was just like, wow, this is what it's all about, man. This is what it's all about here. This is the fall season. Let's see what else is there. Ice, right? Like those ice chips or whatnot. They'll like have it in like, what am I thinking of? What's like where it's pretty thin and then you like take a bite out of it and it kind of crunches on it. I don't know. It's just ice. What am I talking about? It's just ice. Sometimes you can have ice cubes. You can have like ice chips, whatever. And then other good crunches would be candy. There's a lot of candy to enjoy. That's like crunchy. There's Pockies. Those. I like those chocolate ones where like the little sticks or whatever. I like those from time to time. I mean, I'm not gonna say they're my favorite candy, but there's also the Kit Kat bars. They have a good crunch to them. There's Twix, because those are kind of like cookie-ish. There's something in there. But anyways, those are my feelings towards this whole stepping on the crispity crunchity leaves. This is what it's all about. This is what I think fall kind of... Those are kind of like small little experiences about the fall season that I really enjoy and that I think work, that... are kind of the small, simple things that make the season enjoyable, I guess. So yeah, if you agree with that or if you've ever had that moment, awesome. If you haven't, go outside and experience it. I don't know. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.